I mean, how many times do you actually get a chance to interview an animated character? I mean, are they real or just a shapeshifter? Are they hanging out because they're real, or are they hanging out because they're like Tildar Hobblesquatch, the goblin? I don't know, man. It's just one of those things. What are the humans doing?
Do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile, yeah. Signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. So if you think you're ready, you don't need more proof. Conspiracy deniers are denying the truth. They fabricate our problems and pretend to provide the best solution, but we all know they lied. They lied about the weapons and they lied about health. They lied about the fact that they're transferring the wealth. You should really notice how they're pushing the fear. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. Yeah. Everybody's not thinking clear. Keep everybody terrified. Yeah, thinking and not thinking. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. When you do, you realize that this is a trick. It's getting really stupid now, they're taking the mick. Said, do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile, yeah. Signaling their virtues on their profile. Hey.
Oh, Sasquatch? Oh, yeah, he's like the Sandy Waxler of YouTubes.
Next time he'll get his own ketchup.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sasquatch Shills for Sasquatch Shills, so you don't have to check this one out. I have an actual imaginary character backstage, and we are going to have a fantabulous time going over this one because I think it's interesting. And the wonderful part about YouTube is that's all that really matters. How you doing there, the Cheshire Cat?
I am good. How was everybody tonight?
Well, we got a whole pile of folks over here in chat already. Now, I have a problem. Smoking Auditor, who was the first person in? Was it Izzy? It was Izzy. Izzy Pops gets the gold. Smoking Auditor gets the silver. Hold on, let's see who gets the bronze, because that's the question. Claiborne County Transparency gets the blonde. The bronze. Well, I hope you get the blonde too, but the bronze. So congratulations. We also have a new trophy we've been offering during the show, and that is the participation trophy. That's either the best comment or the best name. So good luck. So I got some questions for you. You know how this works?
Sure.
You ever seen one of these?
I have.
All right. So I'm going to throw you up big screen style for a second and you tell everybody what you're doing with your channel and how your community works and all that cool stuff. Go.
Hey guys. So I'm a graphics artist. I came into YouTube. I had been on Facebook for the Summer Wells case. A lot of you are familiar with that. Anyways, that's why I ended up on YouTube, because Facebook flopped. I started creating videos and graphics from drawings, and I kind of got together with AF Pennington, and we really enjoyed doing content kind of together, not really side by side, but parallel universes. She would create, I would create. It's kind of evolved. I've been learning different art throughout the time. I'm learning how to tattoo. I'm in, I don't even know what community I would call myself being part of. I guess we've been labeled the drama community. So I guess I like Izzy and I have been together for a long time. Nicolina and I've been known each other for a very long time. Scully and I go back. I love his creative work too. So I guess everybody has a different flair here. And I guess I'm just kind of weave myself in and out, and my videos kind of align with whatever sort of is going on in the community lately. And my curiosity has been piqued because we've had a little, a little hiccup in the community that
I'm aware of some sort of kerfuffle that have taken place over there. I have no idea about any of it somehow. Just right over.
Yeah, I'm not going to bring that here. That kerfuffle, whatever, can stay. can stay where that stays. So, anyways, I've been creating a little more content, kind of gearing at that, but trying not to overdo it. Just getting my point across when there's something directed at me, because I've been silenced in that realm. With that, that's fine. And then also,
philosophy on drama.
What's your philosophy?
All right. So drama only affects the channel as far as the creator themselves allow it to affect them. It is perfectly possible to have some modicum of drama without actually delving into the drama sphere. You don't have to create the drama. You can merely observe from the outer edges. Now, doing this leaves you open for the interested parties to react or redirect. And in doing that, you kind of open yourself to all of it. Right.
Right. I'm aware of that. So I've kind of decided I was going to do a weekly community video, kind of highlighting, the good and the bad, and highlighting everybody. The
What's up, Mitch? Good to see you.
So that's kind of what I've been doing lately.
Okay. Cool.
Is that
I'm going to run through chat right quick and talk to each and every one of them for a second. Let's see. Now, I'm pretty sure Izzy was first. I'm almost certain Izzy was first. The Smoking Auditor was second. He says, hi. Hi. How you doing? So, Snarking Sass. We've got Sunshine. C4T, which is cat, by the way. ATL Transparency News has joined the chat. So y'all watch yourselves, ladies. He's an animal. Right. Lucy Morningstar is here. I'm assuming I know who that is, but I've also been known to make an ass out of myself. So we got John DeNicola in the chat. Good to see you, bud. My Red Bull's starting to kick in. Can you tell? Old guy Mitch old guy 65 Mitch for short. We got Half Pint in the chat. Good to see you, bud. Appreciate it. And Country Boy Archaeology has joined. And we've got Orb Puff. I did your Kubrick stare. I saw your comment. Was it good enough? I kind of like those creepy pictures that I found on who is it? It's Daniel Bowles' channel. He was showing some pictures he's got on his wall. He had a couple of really creepy ones. I was like, oh, that fits perfect. At least I thought so anyway. Wait, I think I've gone too far. We've gone too far. Turn around. Where are we at?
I guess I could say that I am a registered nurse.
Cool.
I have a bachelor's in nursing.
I have absolutely no higher education. I just bang my head against the wall until I figure things out.
I do that too. I start a new job Monday.
Weekly news with Kat. Is that your most recent upload?
Yep, that's gonna be a weekly thing now. Once a week, a
Cool.
video.
I like that idea. I got a previous guest named Ernie Hatmaker. She does a Sunday shout out thing that's done in a short video format. What's up, Lawless World TV? Good to see you, bud. I'll try to get him in here in the next week or so. He has the most amazing laugh, and I'm going to get him tickled, and it's going to register on the Richter scale. I swear to God, I'm going to unravel that man. He's going to be harmed by the humor I'm going to throw at him. I'm just going to keep hitting him with it until it's not done. It's going to be great. But he's got a pretty good channel. He's started doing a few live streams too, so that's pretty groovy. Is this the next video? No.
That's more of that one.
I watched all of these earlier, and they're longer than I thought they were. Anyway, so tell me this. What got you into doing the whole YouTubery thing anyway? What made you upload your first video?
You know what? I guess I felt inspired. I guess I had time off work. I was playing, and I decided, well, why not? So I did it, and then I learned, and you know, it's more I do it to just practice the graphics part of it, and to get a feel for the art. I'd like to go into doing tattooing full time, but I haven't been able to incorporate that into my life yet.
Yeah. I know a few people who have tried to go the tattooing route, and it seems what happens inevitably is they hook up with somebody who's got the overhead, and then they find out they're all on meth, and they lose it. and then rinse, repeat.
That's my first video. So I think too, I wanted to.
I got a thing. Hold on. I got a gimmick. I got to do my thing. It's the thing I told you about. We're going to do it. Right? Because I'm a YouTube paleontologist.
You know about cars? Yes. I'm a paleontologist. Oh, it's okay. There's dynamite in this bag, too. I am a paleontologist. I'm a paleontologist. Paleontologists study really old stuff.
Like crackers.
Because bad movies are funny.
Right? All right. So tell me all about it.
I think I wanted to highlight the creators and the subs because at the point in time, I think that everybody was losing sight of that. That's sort of the time when the drama started taking a little bit of a twist, and the creators, everyone started kind of going in a weird direction for a bit. Oh, look at there's the Bahamas.
Direction lives in a hatter, and in a direction lives a March hare. You might find shadows in the upside down room. All right, so this is your most viewed video.
That's Bermuda, actually. I went to Bermuda with my dog. Actually, I'll tell you the whole story. This vacation was supposed to take place in May, and my husband was supposed to go, my son-in-law was supposed to go, and my 2 daughters. Well, ended up the week before we went, we all tested positive for COVID. Nobody was symptomatic. Our trip completely got changed. We ended up having to go in August, but my husband couldn't go and my son-in-law couldn't go. So it ended up being me and my 2 daughters. And this day was a great day. We were drinking rum swizzles in Bermuda right near the port. My 17-year-old daughter at the time carried me and my middle daughter back to the boat and made sure we ate and were safe for the rest of the night. We drank a lot of rum that night.
That is a big glass. That is. So when I went to New Orleans, right, we ended up watching. This is just like a few months before Katrina completely flattened the joint. There were these little places called Hawaii Tropical Isles, and they were like these little. There was a couple of little like rolling trolleys that were like mobile tropical isles, and there was 2 actual bars. They had this drink called a hand grenade. It is 5 shots of Everclear, a little bit of lime juice, and some hope. Because I did not realize what it was that I had done. But me and my wife split one, and then we ended up having to pack her back to the trolley so she could go back to the place we were staying at. And then me and her brother got a frozen one in hopes that it would take longer to actually drink. So that we wouldn't get completely snickered.
My one daughter we were just talking about this day, and she was just saying, she's like, I laid in the bathroom for half an hour waiting for my youngest daughter to come get her. And she's like, and she wasn't finding me. We're in this great big cruise ship. And
we're not ready for that yet. We're not doing the Rabies yet. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, yeah, that was a fun cruise. That was a Carnival cruise.
That is fantastic.
Out of New York.
I've never done a cruise. I'm not sure how well I'd function on a boat that actually moved.
It's fun.
Yeah, good for rivers, lakes. We could talk about a sound or possibly a bay. Anything bigger than that, I'm not sure how well I'd fare.
Well, you can come out. I live on the Mohawk River. You can come canoe on that.
Bud. I'll do it.
It's kind of quiet.
What's up, Black National Freedom Friday? Good to see you. We got a few more people join the chat. Let's roll back and see who they was. Got Sunshine and Lawless World TV. Stickman Outdoors Sticky. No, Stickman Outdoor Adventures. My bad. All right, Sticky. We got Ajot. Welcome back. Good to see you, girl. Starting to worry about you. Oh, no, don't do that. Am I still here? Yeah, okay. Glitched for a second. We got Michelle here. Good to see you. And of course, the one that triggered all of this. Oh, I thinned a herd a lot, dude. Like, I trimmed off a bunch of people. It ain't just you. Don't take it too terrible personal.
Yeah, I just recently lost my wrench somewhere. I realized that. I was like, well, whatever.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Whenever you get to that point where you're fixing to start doing the whole monetization thing and you're doing the communications with YouTube, they give you this freaking like list of quote unquote preferable things or whatever. And
Right.
having a whole bunch of mods is one of those real big red flags they don't like. So I try to keep it thinned down to people that I've actually sat down and talked to. And yeah, like we're doing right here. Most of them are previous guests, like Ajot's been on. I haven't done the Smoking Auditor, but he's almost got enough content for me to strong arm him into it. Somebody told me that the Smoking Auditor was my nemesis because I told him I didn't have a YouTube nemesis. And he's like, it's that guy with the broken camera. I knew exactly who they were talking about. Like immediately. All right. So without getting too terribly deep into any of the drama sphere, that was pretty much what inspired you to start doing content in general?
Kind of to do light content, to do something that people could get away from the daily craziness. And obviously I delve back and forth into it here and there. But that's okay. Like you said, you gotta have some of that.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, it does exactly as much as you allow it to do. If you spend a lot of time on specific drama, you shouldn't be surprised when that specific drama is reflected back on you.
Right, and you have to be ready for it and know how to handle it. And there's just ways around that. That's okay. I'm good with that, and I know what I can handle.
Right. Well,
I got broad shoulders.
You're not the first drama channel I've hosted. I also hosted What Truth, and he has one of the most epic. I don't know. I'm gonna go out on a limb. He might get mad about. They both might get mad at me about this. But he has one of the most epic bromance sagas in all the history of YouTube's. And I'm not going to name any further names on that because that's their business. It's not really mine. But it is so interesting to watch from a distance. I hate all of it, but at the same time, it's like a car accident. I just can't look away because it's like it's like two really big dogs on two sides of a fence. They can't really do anything, but at the same time, they both bark real loud and stuff. I don't know.
Right.
I have my opinions on the whole situation, but I don't know all the facts, so it doesn't matter what I think. And that's
Sometimes
the part I think a lot of people miss, is that it doesn't matter what somebody thinks.
No, it really doesn't. And you know, it's like sometimes it's like a battle of the personalities too. It's like,
What's up, Scully? Good to see you, bud. See, I told you I knew him.
and if you can come away laughing at the end of the night from most of it, which
Here's the thing. I
do.
I'm going to come away laughing in every case, even if it is at myself.
I can't help but laugh. Even when I realized, like, I had a video of mine pulled up, I deleted it. But I had a video of mine pulled up. Somebody messaged me in the middle of the night. I was sleeping. They're like, "You need to wake up." I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "Someone's streaming one of your videos." I'm like, "What video?" I hop up online and I'm like, "Are you serious?" It was a video I made of the snow. And apparently I doxed my own street, my own house, but no one's looked at that video for months.
Right?
No one's mentioned it. No one's cared about it. It was more of New York snow. Like, and they were like pointing out all these things. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I certainly did that." And as they're showing it, I deleted it. And I was more like, "Oh crap."
Yeah, no, that's classic amateur hour stuff, man.
But when I deleted it, you should have saw their face, because they're like, "Well, I'm going to make a short with this later to show what the wrong things to do on YouTube." And as soon as I deleted it, it was like, nah. And I get what I did, but it sat for months and not one person in the whole
Just
world.
like 2 views, me and me again.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I got a few of those.
And it was just like they picked it apart. I had to laugh at myself. I wasn't upset. I more laughed, and I was like, "Well, that's nice of you. You use my content to basically point out that I doxed myself, but then you really doxed me." Thanks.
Right? Yeah, no. I get the evil. I see it. But it's ironically funny because like you did it and then they did it to you, and then
Right.
it's like docception here.
It is. It's docception. And it's like, I was just, because not many people understand that there's upstate New York. Most people hear New York, they think, "Oh, it's New York City." No. There's upstate New York. The Amish are my nearest neighbors. So I was basically like showing them all this snow, and they're like, "Oh, well, you got your neighbor's car and you got your neighbor's house." And I was like, "Okay, thanks."
But why are we asking me for things? I don't understand. Are you trying to trade your Volkswagen for a 9mm? Depending on what state you're in, we could maybe talk.
Thanks, Mitch, for subbing.
Right? Everybody go check her out. The link's pinned at the top of the chat. It's also in the description and in the title. I think I may have screwed up your title. I might have to change that. I did the one with the cat in it. And I think it has to have the numbers for it to change. Like in the future, if you change the name of your channel, if you do it right, it'll change the name of the Sasquatch Shills, and I don't have to do anything. That's phenomenal. I do not need more to do, but I don't understand what's up with the Volkswagen. I'm so confused. I'm sorry. I'm just completely baffled. I'm not.
Okay, hold
Those
on,
are
Doc.
big dogs. All right, Stickman Outdoor Adventures. Tell you what, you've got 30 seconds to convince me why you should have a wrench. Starting like a few seconds ago when you've heard that.
The kids walked in, but it's an emergency.
You have an emergency?
They have to guard the house.
Oh, yeah. No, my dog's the same way. My dog is absolutely just batshit. Glasses. He hates glasses. He doesn't like hats. I had a buddy of mine one time come in, and he was holding this glass bong, and homie, my dog, just reached out, snatched it right out of his hand. Like, just, And then, like, not 2 days later, another guy came by, wanted to show me his new 38, which he tried to fast draw in my living room, and my dog snatched it right out of his hand. And I was like, good dog. But he's way quicker than I am. I didn't even know there was a gun involved until it was too late. Dog was on it. I'm like, good
Anyone
boy.
that comes near the front door is an enemy.
Right?
And the mailman's really
Right?
scared.
Snark gets it. Pretty much, you got to come in here and talk to me. We got to check out your content. We're going to have us a discussion about the kind of things you're into, and then we're going to talk about some First Amendment shit. And when we get to the other end of that, probably not. It's nothing personal, dude. I just thinned the herd. Like, I wiped out 45% of my mods like a couple of days ago. So don't feel bad, man. It ain't that personal. Snark got to keep hers just because she shows up, says the most absurd things. And I know there's no way it's getting through the YouTube algorithm. They're going to block hers at the first opportunity they get. Oh, the horror. You can do great. I can do great for your channel, and I will share you out of my community tab, and I will share you as much as I can. I old 60 years old. Okay, bro. Let's see what you eat. Hold on. Be entertaining for 30 seconds. Hold on. Do you know any limericks? Any puzzles? Any riddles? I failed to do this. I was supposed to do this at the very beginning of the show, and I didn't do it. Because I'm an idiot, I think. That's why. Where are you at, bud?
There's Izzy.
Man, go to channel. There we go. Yeah, you totally qualify. You've got content and stuff. It's even recent. Cool. See, that's the thing, is a lot of times you can find channels. You find the right size, the right types of channels. But trying to actually get them to respond to you, then respond in the positive that they're willing to further discuss anything at all. Because you just try it. Go comment on some videos to see how many actual creators respond to you. Okay, give it a shot. It don't work that way, do it?
It doesn't.
I mean, I equate the whole YouTube thing, like this whole interview process that I try to do, as herding cats or possibly trying to rope snakes or something like that. You know, it's not the most, it's not the easiest thing.
I got a secret though. Apparently, that any cat that shows up on YouTube is me. So just so you know that I must have a million different troll accounts under.
I know of at least 3 other cats. And they're not you. I've met 2 of them.
Oh, thank you for helping me with this. I needed some assistance with this.
Fantastic. Well, you're obviously not in multiple places at the same time. I mean, this isn't the Wild West.
I'm just like, you know, if I'm going to come up with an alt name, it's going to be much, much more creative. For sure.
Right. I kind of regret Caucasian Sasquatch because apparently the Caucasian word is racist somehow, and I can't put it into like lots of places.
I kind of regret the Cheshire Cat because now my A.F. Pennington is no longer on YouTube, so my White Rabbit counterpart is no longer there, and that's the White Rabbit, not White Rabbit.
Right, the White Rabbit, the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah.
Can you stand on your head?
I was once just told I was from the Wonderland community. I'm like, the Wonderland community? Where's that?
Well, been my outcast. Good to see you, bud.
Please, somebody show me there.
There's I mean, if there's a bread tube, there's definitely a Wonderland community, huh? Right?
There's got to be, but I haven't found it.
There's a book tube, dude. I stumbled in when I was doing like Cavalier Studios show and Logan Albright. When I was hosting them, I wandered off into just like 2 rabbit holes that I had no idea existed. One is MovieTube, where everyone reviews movies and they don't care about anything you say unless you've made a video about reviewing it. Right.
Right. I've seen that.
BookTube. There's booktube, and these people are exactly the same way about books. They don't care what your opinion is unless they can watch it in a video. That's really weird to me. I'm right here, dude. My opinion's right here. You don't have to do a video. In fact, we could do it live.
There's some crazy places in the YouTube
What's up,
realm.
Tiffany? Good to see you, darling. I've got some after dark videos set up, and one of them is rabies, the scientific history of rabies, everything we know, and it's done by an excellent creator. He's been going at it for about 2 years now. Does really fantastic work. It's slick. It's professional. The sound is perfectly on point. I'm sorry. I'm doing the wrong thing. I just really dig it. I really like great content or channels that have a fluke. So like Izzy's channel, it doesn't have a whole shit ton of subscribers, but it has like daily viewers, like freaking As the World Turns or something. It performs day in and day out.
I listen to Izzy like when I'm cleaning the house. Like half the time she doesn't even know that I'm there, but I'm there. Because I have her on when I'm doing things around the house. She's like my radio.
Yeah, and apparently that's the case for several people. She pulls down an average of like 20 concurrent, like right now. If she was live right now, there'd be 15 or 20 people watching her. That's absolutely freaking amazing. That's what I was interested in, and I talked to her backstage, and we went over a whole bunch of stuff together, and came to the conclusion that, well, apparently she's just fucking that interesting. I don't know. You can't.
She's great, and even if I don't have time, if I see that she's live and I don't have time, or I'm going to work or something, I'll hit play, and so she gets some the view, and I'll hit the like. I just love it.
Anytime if I'm working, like one of the problems I have with my computer is if it goes to sleep while I'm in the middle of rendering, it sometimes crashes the render and I have to start over. So if any of my previous guests are live at the time I'm doing this, I'll set that up in the background playing and just listen to it while I'm doing whatever editing I'm doing, so that the computer doesn't go to sleep if I end up just staring off into space for 45 minutes.
I do the same thing.
Because I mean, sometimes you don't know where to go from somewhere. You
just sit and stare into space.
Right.
It's like your answer is going to mysteriously show up. And sometimes it does.
Well, see, like that's what I was saying about having like 1,000 videos on my hard drive over here that are almost done. They're all missing something, some little thing, like the Hurt. I did a Hurt parody as Mr. Snuffleupagus.
Oh, geez, I haven't heard that in so long. You're aging us.
I recorded that months ago, but I couldn't figure out how to like make it work. It didn't work every way I tried to put it together and make it. I couldn't sit through it. Why would I expect anyone else to? And so finally, when I did the Sweet Child of Mine parody about Joe Biden and Hunter, called Creep Child of Mine. When I did that one, I stumbled on a format I thought might work, so I tried it out. It didn't do great, but I'm not a singer. I don't really sing. That's not what I do. You know.
It's still fun. I have a whole bunch of unfinished stuff too.
More questions.
Sure.
You've got a little bit of steam going on YouTube. You're doing, I don't know. I guess they're short form. They're not shorts. So answer me this: why don't you do shorts?
I do have shorts.
You have a few. I mean,
I do. I have shorts of my cat Orion.
Right.
And I have a whole bunch to put up of him. I just haven't done it.
Let me give you a tip right here. You can upload 3 things a day and get a notification for them if you upload them a few hours apart. Like publish them a few hours apart. You can upload all of that trash and save it to a private playlist on your channel, and that'll let you go and find specific videos in your backlog and release them as you need to, so that you can get ahead without having to do the upload.
I need to do that because usually I'll pop my shorts on TikTok too, which my TikTok took off. I had a TikTok video that got almost 400,000 views.
Yeah, that's TikTok.
Yeah, that's crazy though. I don't understand how the two of them different work, but whatever. The one I put on YouTube only got 10,000, so
right.
But I have a whole bunch of shorts of the cat to put up. I just haven't done it.
Dude, those are great. I got a buddy of mine named Untethered Live. He does these Bible studies and chill streams where he plays music for folks. Anyway, it's a weird thing. He was kind of stagnated at about 90 to 102 subscribers, kept bouncing back and forth right there. And I suggested to him, I was like, do shorts. He was like, shorts of what, man? And he did a couple. They didn't really ring as something he wanted to do. He sounded like he was kind of pissily doing it, you know?
Right.
And I was like, don't your neighbors have some cats? He's like, yeah. I was like, I fucking film the cats, dude. His very first cat video got like 23,000 views or some shit like that. Suddenly he's got like 300 subscribers and he's over there shitting in high cotton. He was real happy with himself. It was his great idea. I love it.
It's so crazy because the kitten showed up. This little black kitten showed up at a time when I just didn't know where I was actually even going to go with my channel, to be honest with you. And I had this little kitten that showed up. So I started filming his crazy antics because he's this crazy little wild stray. And then we got the boxer puppy. So between the two of them last year, I did a bunch of shorts of them. And I have a whole bunch more of Orion because this cat does some crazy stuff. And I need to put them on there. I do.
What are we doing? Are you going live, Scully? What are you doing? Man, is that happening? What's happening? What's going on?
Scully.
Janica, what's up? Good to see you. Did I miss you earlier? I thought you were in here earlier.
Hi, Janica. Hello.
Resident alien. See, one thing I love about we might lose me. We've got storms blowing through right now. It's like tearing hell outside.
They keep saying we're getting a hurricane, but I don't see it.
Oh, I'm in Georgia. We'll see it. We'll catch some part of it, even if it ain't nothing but a bunch of crazy Floridians driving through our streets, still in our hubcaps and shit, wrestling pythons in the middle of the street. Oh, coming back. Cool. All right. So what are you planning on doing with your channel? Like I said, you've got a little bit of momentum going. You're doing the graphic effects. If you had a pie in the sky idea, like what would it be?
I think I would like to get more comfortable doing some live streams. I'd like to do some story stuff. I have a lot. I don't know.
So when you say story stuff, are you talking narration or?
Kind of a little bit of like what Scully does.
Getting a few people together to do a narration.
Yeah, I'd like to do something like that. I think that would be fun. With this new job change and my hour change, it's going to allow me some more free time to be able to do things like that. That's been a big problem is my time. I've been working like 50 to 60 hours a week. Finally got a different job, which is allowing much more money and much more time. So I'm going to.
I know the type, bud. But here's the thing. If I didn't talk to you legitimately, it might have come across as being a bit of an asshat. But now that I'm aware that you're an actual content creator and you've done so within the last month, we can discuss it, man. I mean, it's not beyond the pale. I mean, I'm down for I have interviewed a deaf Bigfoot hunter, a goblin, all kinds of cop watchers, like any number of them. 2 or 3 homesteaders, all kinds of folks. And I've been looking for a knitting circle, and I did a gardening channel. I want a dog man. I want to do a dog man channel. I don't care if they narrate dog man books or what. I don't care. And then I'm going to go looking for the Pixie Fairy channel because I want to ask them all the same question.
You're funny. I also like to go do like no,
I'm not actually a comedian, but I play one on YouTube, and I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So there you go.
That's great. I'd like to do the abandoned places too. I was going to go take a ride up to Connecticut and show where the Conjuring house was and Ed and Lorraine's house where Annabelle is.
I interviewed a sorcerer, like a divine one, the divine sorcerer, as a matter of fact.
And I'm not far from Salem, Massachusetts. So there's places that I'd like to go show you guys.
Fantastic. I'd love to see some of that. I mean, there are channels on YouTube that have already done it. You can go hunt down any part of that crap from the past 40 years, pretty much. I mean,
For sure.
stories about it, locations, all that stuff. I guess maybe my approach is a little bit more basic, you know. There's other people that have done it better than I could do it because I just don't have the experience to put that much skill into it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Now, as far as going and asking the questions, like if I could find somebody that actually knew something about the subject, we could definitely get down to the nitty gritty on it. We'll break it on down.
There's something to say about going to these places and kind of seeing them yourselves. I went to the Willowbrook State. It was a psych center that closed down, and it was crazy to go in and out of those buildings. And then to the Letchworth, the cemetery where it's all the unmarked graves. So something to say, you know, seeing some of these places in person and kind of bringing it to a different audience, even though there's probably a million things out there on it already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, and this is something I try to tell all my creators. What I want you to do is do something that you love and take it somewhere that makes you uncomfortable. Right?
Right.
For instance, I'm absolutely terrified of doing something stupid. I know that sounds crazy being on YouTube and saying all the wild shit I say, but I'm terrified of it. It's the most fun. But I am planning on dressing up as Freakazoid for Halloween. And so these two things make me uncomfortable.
Right.
I love Freakazoid so much that I'm going to take the risk that I'm allergic to blue. I don't know yet. We will see. Right? See, I could do it. I got the hair for it, right?
You do.
A little bit of Aquanet and some teasing, and my hair straight up.
The Aquanet will do it for sure.
Some of that damn hard freeze stuff, and then hit it with the Aquanet, flare it out. Literally get me a stencil and spray paint white fucking lightning bolt in it. It's gonna be great.
I gotta see this.
It's gonna be great. And I'm thinking about doing a whole series, right, of Freakazoid as like a 45-year-old dude. Freakazoid today, sitting around flipping through the channels, going freak on, reaching his rubber arm in to grab the beer out of the refrigerator. I think it's got legs. I think it's got potential.
It does. You've got good potential. I like this idea.
It won't work if I'm allergic to the blue. That's going to be the thing, is like I'll have to sit down and write a whole bunch of skits and then sit down and film them all while I'm wearing the blue.
Yep.
You got to get me the suit. Can't be too hard. Y'all aren't going to let me forget that, are you?
Nope.
No, Snark's going to be on me now. She loves her some Freakazoid. You know what Freakazoid was, actually?
What was Freakazoid?
All right. Today, he would be a Reddit troll.
Oh, okay.
Right? So back in the day, there were message boards. And the time period that Freakazoid represents is a time period more of speech forums than anything else. Like, there wasn't so much a YouTube or a MySpace or a centralized social media. Like, everybody had a website and everybody had a .com and everybody, you know,
yep.
He's the Wild West. And if you wanted to go talk some deep Alice in Wonderland lore, you went and found some huge forum that had thousands of people on it that were sitting around talking about nothing but the Jabberwocky.
We used to have the topics boards and they got shut down.
Right. Well, that's a little bit after what I'm talking about here. But Freakazoid was a conglomeration of all the horrible things that people do and say online. given a personification in the shape of a superhero nerd that knows everything, but it does absolutely no good, because it's like Google, right? It can tell you anything, but it can't tell you how to actually do it. Right? You can go look at it on YouTube, but your fingers have to be strong enough to accomplish these tasks and stuff, and that comes with experience. And so, like, I don't suggest you go and change your own brakes for the first time.
I know that's probably not a good idea.
I mean, it might be just fine if you're mechanically inclined, but it might not be. And Freakazoid is the result of the non-mechanically inclined accomplishing things through internet activity, the super troll, right? He is the physical embodiment of all of that slapstick, backhanded, underhanded, all of the drama, all. That's why he's so over the top.
That's great. I like that idea. That's a good concept.
That's Freakazoid. That's not mine. That was Steven Spielberg, bro. They did that. I think. Wasn't it Steven Spielberg? Pretty sure.
I think it was. But it's great.
All right. So, graphic animations, voice work in general. Like I said, narrations require a bit of preparation. My reason for starting my channel was to read westerns, like old pre-copyright, out of print westerns that are.
You got a good voice for that.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Like anytime there was something like the kids had to be put to bed, I'd just walk in and sit down and read some Greek history or. Oh, my favorite, and you might be able to tell looking at my channel. My favorite was always the stories of the Aesir and Vasir, the Valhalla and all that.
Yep.
I read. My daughter's probably more educated in the Norse lore than just about anybody else her age, except maybe an Icelandic kid. It's kind of funny because she doesn't remember where she learned all that crap, but she could tell you how many spears make up the roof of Valhalla.
I had to laugh. I have a 2-year-old grandson, and I picked him up the one day, and my daughter's texting me all this stuff to tell me, well, when he takes a nap, make sure you put on Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. And I had to laugh. I said, where did you get that from? She's like, I don't know. She's like, it's soothing to him. I said, well, that's what I used to play when you were a baby.
It's just a little pinprick.
Yep.
Good. Just the basic facts.
And I don't know why that was so soothing, but apparently it's soothing to my little grandbaby. So that's cool.
Apparently I was a fog hat baby. I don't know, man. Oh, apparently I really dug Elvis when I was like little. And apparently I know a whole bunch of Elvis tunes. I had no idea.
I was raised by hippies that listened to Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead and John Prine.
My mom was a witch. Like my mom was a Christian pagan, if you can buy that shit. Like she's the reason why I know more about the Norse and Greek, Turkish, and freaking African fables than I do about Christian fables.
Yep.
Part. Like I've read the Bible.
Very familiar.
But did you know that in deep Africa and in the deep Sahara, there's a type of genie called a bodini that is always evil, but they look just like the same type of genie. I can't remember the name of it. That is good, but they're always evil. The bodinis.
That's why my mother called my ex-husband a bodini.
Did you not know that? Oh no, I'm sorry. I used to call my boss Bodini, and I convinced him. I convinced him it was an African genie, and I didn't explain anything else. Worked there for like 9 or 10 months. 2 or 3 years after I quit the job, and went on doing some other crap, I ran across him in a convenience store, and he looked at me. He goes, "Sasquatch, I got to ask you a question. What was it you used to call me?" I said, "Oh shit, dude, you ain't found an encyclopedia, did you?" He said, "I might have." Dude, listen. When I first met you, he's like, "Oh, I was an asshole. I know. I see where you're coming from with it." That was like my second job out of high school. Like legitimate, full records and everything job, you know. Working at a window factory.
I waitressed and bartended out of high school and then put myself through nursing school.
There you go. See, I always figured I should have been a stripper, but there's just no strip clubs around here.
Yeah, there's none around here either. Not in Amish country.
Now, anybody who lives around here is just going to find that absolutely fucking hilarious because I'm kind of a tubby bitch. One of my favorite things is throughout the entire time that I've had this channel and I've been running it, I speak of living in my hometown, right? I don't live in my hometown anymore, but anytime I talk about where I live, I talk about that place, which is just right over there. It's not far. But the thing is like, it's not on the map. It's like you go see pictures of it, but it's not actually registered as a town. That is to say, they don't actually have a post office. They have Gene. And Gene flags down the postman. So he used to be the postmaster back before he retired. average age of this town is like 64.
So we had a Gene postman for years, actually, and he retired and he went crazy after he retired and he continued walking his route.
Oh, I got a better one. That's fantastic.
Walking past your house at mail time with the mailman in front of him. I'm like, what is he doing?
No, I'll tell you what it is. I bet you he had the worst restless legs you've ever heard of. I bet that man could not help but walk that far. So why not walk the same route that gave it to you? It makes a little bit of crooked sense. I
guess so. You're right. I guess I could be. I don't know what's happened to him. I haven't seen him in a long time.
I once got pulled over by a senile janitor. No joke. This is not a joke or an exaggeration. I was coming through a little town called Stillmore, which is not even a wide spot in the road. It has a post office and a policeman, and that is it. It has a chief, and he's the only one with a car.
Oh my goodness, it sounds like where I live.
Real tiny town, like unbelievably small.
Yep.
So when I come off the interstate, I was having trouble with my accelerator. It kept like hanging up, and I'd have to like stomp on it to get it loose, but it wouldn't always come loose. So like I'm cruising along, like banging on the damn accelerator. I just stopped twice and looked at it. There was nothing physically wrong with the damn thing, and I couldn't figure out why it was hanging up, and I kept trying to fix it and kept trying to fix it. And I'm cruising along running about, I don't know, 76 or so. Come around the corner, poof, there's still more. There's a cop parked on the side of the road. Fuck. I'm in a 25, bro. I'm running 70. And I'm still stomping on that accelerator trying to get it to turn loose. And finally, I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I turned the truck off, guided it down to the side of the road. This very tiny black man runs up, jumps up the side of my truck, leans into the window, and starts screaming at me. Where's the goddamn fire? Why are you driving so fast? You know you could have killed children. It's like 2 a.m, bro. Calm down. Like I was having a mechanical problem, but we didn't get that far because he sat there and straight just drill sergeant screamed in my ear. And I was holding my license so utterly shocked that I just drew a complete blank. And then slowly it dawns on me, you're not wearing a badge and you don't have any. Why are you in a cop car? And he stops. And while he was screaming, this fully outfitted policeman walks up and stood right behind him. And he reaches up and tugs on his sleeve. The guy's still screaming at me, He tugs on his sleeve again. And then finally, I'm like, why don't you have a badge? And he stopped, climbs down off the truck, looks at the guy, and the cop pointed back. Go get in your car, go back to the station, and I'll talk to you in a minute. And he storms off, cussing a freaking blue streak. That cop stood there for a second. He said, and he just turned the gun around and it said 76. And I went, yeah. Hey, while you're here, can you do me a favor? He's like, what, brother? I was like, I popped the hood and was like, I need you to stomp on the freaking accelerator over here. He's like, Absolutely not. So, but what he did sit there and kind of jiggle it. And eventually it turned out there was like a nut that was loose in there and it was like wedging. I just tightened it up and everything was fucking hunky dory after that. Drove like a freaking dream. But I mean, like, I got pulled over, full blown pulled over by a janitor. He had been chief of police. The dude explains it to me, explains the whole thing. He's like, I've got you on camera. I've got all the records. This happened. But that man was chief of police up until 6 weeks ago. He was voted out. And now I'm chief of police, and he really doesn't like it. And he also doesn't actually believe it because he's been chief of police since he was like 28. So his whole life has been in that one little town.
Yep, that's what happens with these small towns. Everybody gets stuck on them.
This look on that man's face, though.
Yelling at you.
he just sat there staring down at the ground, and I was like, so where we at? And he just held up the damn speed gun and said, yeah, okay. I'm just going to have to bite that one, I guess. Damn. I thought I had a way out of there for a second, and I probably could have if I'd have pitched enough of a fit, but I don't. Hey, that goes further. Actually, I paid that ticket, right? I paid that ticket like the very next morning. I went to the bank, I mailed it off and did the whole thing, right? 6, 8, 10 weeks later, apparently they issue a bench warrant, and they came to my job to come pick me up. And these two guys in suits showed up and gave me the whole good cop, bad cop rundown. And after about a 10-minute conversation and explaining to them, look, now, I've already paid that ticket. I don't have to go to court because it's all been paid. Punishable by fine means legal for a price, and it has been rendered legal. So if y'all come across this table at me, I am not going quietly.
No.
Freaking out, because I didn't see this coming at all because I had covered it. I got the lack of insurance dismissed and everything else dismissed. I had records for all of that crap. The only thing that was left was the actual speeding ticket, which was like $145.
Oh, yeah, they get you on that, don't they? Court
Boy, they got my whole check that week. I ain't even joking. That whole trip was useless to me. Smoked my ass is what they did. You know what you've done? You've done a show. The whole thing. I'm proud of you. So I got one last question for you. And then I'm going to do a little play out thing. Wait, I wonder if I deleted it. I didn't mean to delete it. I hope I didn't delete it. I did delete it. Oh, that's evil. I'll do it on this end. Anyway, so here's my question. Sure. What do you want to tell everybody before we leave?
Be kind to each other. Have fun out there. Never go to bed crying. Laugh every day.
And tickle small children. No, that's my suggestion. I mean, they sound hilarious when you tickle them like little fairies. Not that I'd know what a fairy sounds like.
Belly laughs, big belly laughs every day.
Will kind of sounded like a fairy. Anyway, right. I'm going to do the play out. I'm going to drop you backstage. I'm going to talk to them for a second, and then I'll be right back up here.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, stick around, or if you got something you need to go do, that's also acceptable. We'll be around Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, just about every time.
Yes, awesome. I'm very glad we found each other.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Sometimes it's a bit of an issue getting people in, but I think I just cut her off. But you know how this works. She'll be right back up. We can talk to her then. I appreciate everybody who stuck around for the video. This whole editing thing has become a bit of a side hobby for me, and I'm not the best at it, but I hope you like what I put at the end of this, because I always stick something really weird on the end of it. So we're going to go with the short play out on this one. Intro. I got so much crap over here. It's ridiculous. What do I do with it?
Sorry. Good news, though. We're going to have to move the party somewhere a little bit more private, but you're all invited. Lorenzo will give you the details. Yeah!
Hey, she was a cutie in a sundress. I told her I just had to confess. I got a crush on you, darling. Them long tan legs got me falling.
Boy, that is stressful. Oh, she ran away. All right. So here's what we're doing. And you've still got the link. If you want to hop back in and do the thing, we can continue or not. And I'll even do this because I've been forgetting to do this. We're going to turn that part off, turn that on, do this thing, that thing. Whammo, bammo. All right. So we have the link shared in chat. Y'all know the rules. Nobody's getting in here that I don't see their face, or at least some specific gang signs that I provide at the time. And yeah, so I've collected a handful of videos. These are this guy's real good. I can't remember his name. Hold on, let me find it. It's like Jake Kelly or Patrick Kelly. Patrick Kelly does absolutely fantastic. They're all like medical type stuff, you know. And my connection is getting really fragile over here, so it may just kick me out at any point in time here. Unmute it. Start from the beginning. You've got the link in chat and the other link in chat, and that one's pinned. Right.
This is a
Rabies.
timeline of when different human vaccines were first used and documented. You'll find the new mRNA vaccines on the right and Edward Jenner's famous smallpox vaccine on the left. When I first saw this timeline, the thing that caught my attention was this gap here. There are 89 years between the smallpox vaccine and the next one, the vaccine for rabies. And then within a few years, we had vaccines for the plague, influenza, diphtheria, tuberculosis, some of the biggest diseases in human history. So I wondered, why was rabies second? What was it about the disease that made scientists think they could vaccinate against it? And what kind of influence did that vaccine's development have in that cluster of vaccines in the early 20th century? Rabies follows a pretty clear disease progression, which is going to be important later in the story. The first stage is incubation, which is the period between the bite and when symptoms start, which can range anywhere from days to years. It usually starts 1 to 3 months after exposure. Rabies is caused by a bullet-shaped virus called a lyssavirus, which is introduced to a new host through the saliva of a rabid animal. Once it's in the body, the virus starts replicating in the muscle cells around the bite, which lets them hide from the host's immune system.
I warned you I was live.
Virus gets into the nervous system through special receptors on the ends of neurons called acetylcholine receptors. And we have a lot of these, not just in our muscles. Acetylcholine is the chemical messenger that lets our nervous system communicate with our muscular system. From there, it creeps through the nerves at anywhere from 8 to 20 centimeters a day until it eventually gets to your central nervous system, the spinal cord and brain. And that leads to the prodrome, where the victim has some generic...
What do you know about rabies?
I know possums can't get rabies. Other than that, it makes people become extremely afraid of water, and then they die.
Well, the term hydrophobia is an old school rabies term. You would have heard it in like the old Yeller and a few of the older like those types of films. Anyway, rabies is a virus that attacks the cellular membrane between your synapses and your muscle fibers, right? And so at first, you'll have like this weird euphoric feeling. You'll walk around and feel absolutely amazing because the first thing that goes is your pain sensations. And then your ability to have like an actual immune response. And so at first, you'll have this weird glowing effect where you're a little bit sweaty, a little bit hot, and you look almost overly healthy for about 16 hours. And after that, it's downhill from there. And treating rabies is a bitch
I know, like nine out of 10 people die everywhere on the planet, except for this one village down in South America. And you're muted.
Yeah, no, I'm muted on purpose. I was coughing.
Okay.
Oh Lord. I went to get out the truck today and bonked it into my knee right on the edge of the door. Right on the flat spot of the kneecap too. And it just straight shin barked me across the kneecap. That thing is bruised to high hell. Keeps popping of its own volition every time I move it. It's like
At least it's not a trailer hitch, I guess.
Oh, dude, I have not in both both sheds from those damn one-arm trailer hitches.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm talking like full on. You can measure the thickness of the steel notches.
Yeah. Leaves like a big old bruise right there. I've done that several times until I've started either avoiding trucks or paying more attention while I'm at work. One of the two.
Yeah, no. Yeah, bath in hot water. Well, the thing is at some point your ability to actually absorb water becomes impeded by the virus's effects, and so they'll drink their belly full, but they can't really satiate their thirst, and so they'll end up foaming at the mouth with like a huge amount of salivating, and because they're gnashing their teeth the whole time because they're losing control of their contraction, their voluntary muscle contractions and stuff. Meanwhile, they're also losing control of their involuntary muscles, so their stomach shuts down and they go insane. They effectively go completely insane and usually violently psychotic in the process. And what's really fucked up about this is when it happens in people, these people can go violently psychotic and plan it. They have the ability to reason and rationalize what they're going to do to kill the people they're going to kill or whatever. Like, they are insane and dangerous. But then there comes a point where they become irrational. But yeah. What's up, Westside? Good to see you.
See, the messed up thing about everything you just said, the whole getting super sweaty and glowing and looking healthy, sounds like a regular day at work to me. And then at the end of it, I could go psychotic on half my friends / co-workers, and everyone would think it would be normal. Meanwhile, earlier that morning, I would have gotten bit by a raccoon in a tree.
Go postal. Yeah, I can see it.
More like arborist.
Are you drinking? Am I drinking? I don't know.
I'm not drinking.
I wasn't really planning on drinking.
Oh, he went to the store earlier to get beer. That's what Kat did. I remember him putting that in the chat.
Oh, cool. I don't drink beer at all. Like, actually, I guess I could say that occasionally, when I'm really, really hot or on the beach, or if I know I'm going to be on the beach, I'll wake up and just drink beer that day. But once I'm done with it, I'm done. Like, I don't want no more beer for like another year. It's like trying to chew an entire loaf of bread back off. I'm not interested.
See, I don't know. I personally don't like the taste of beer. I much rather have mixed drinks, and then I could do about 3 to 5 of them straight in a row and have a nice buzz for a few hours.
I am an alcoholic. Hi, I'm Sasquatch. I'm an alcoholic, and I prefer shots. Because I have a distinct lack of control, right? It's that self-control thing that I discuss about how, as an addict, they wanted me to regulate my usage through tapering, which I have a self-control issue. That's why I'm an addict. I don't understand. I had to literally lock myself in a room and not come out until I was freaking done.
just to answer Lucy Morningstar's question, yes, we're doing Sasquatch After Dark.
This is the After Dark. The link is in the description thing, but you're in the wrong outfit. Go get your other outfit and you can come up. all right. My bad. So we're specifically looking at the rabies vaccine and its development. Are you familiar with any of that?
No.
Literal
I know.
fuel, dude. Like, do you know how a vaccine is tested?
On animals, usually.
Usually, but it had to be effective in humans as well, right? And so after the animal testing took place and some animals it worked with and some animals that didn't, it was like, right? They popped a human with that shit and it didn't work. And then it didn't work again and again and again. And they kept trying because some vaccines would seem to work in some species and then have no effect in other species for whatever reason.
Is
like
it just
Brazil? Wasn't that village you're talking about where people don't get rabies in Brazil?
It's not that they don't get it, it's
They survive.
people's natural immunity is like 90% of people die from it, or 99% of people die from rabies. But down somewhere in Brazil or somewhere in South America, like 60 or 70% of the population has already had it, and they all have antibodies for it now.
Bravo in the chat, and I'm just gonna say, I'm so pretty. Hey, little mama. What are you on the beach all alone?
Johnny Bravo, you're a little late. You missed the Cheshire cat.
The Cheshire cat. She you can back it up. I mean, if he wants to go see it, it's what it is, you know. She doesn't do really long videos, so she does the visual bits, and I'm pretty sure she's doing work for other channels more than she is her own, which is kind of the situation I'm in too.
She's back in chat now. You're more than welcome to come back up for the After Dark Cheshire cat.
The Smoking Auditor is a rarity in my channel. It's someone that hasn't been on the show and gets access to backstage and it's full moderator status. I mean,
I'm just here to help. Other than that, I'll come up when no one else is up here. Other than that, I just try to help.
You do the nemesis bit.
Now, who said that? Who's trying to make us a nemesis? I will say that would not be good. I would severely lose. What the heck are they thinking?
I would plot some shit. I'd take my time.
I would just give you my. I would just be like, here you go. Here's the email and here's the password. You're now the Smoking Auditor and you're now Sasquatch. Good luck.
No, I'm not. I'm not a bad Sasquatch. I'm a good Sasquatch. I don't do those kinds of things. But I can't.
I know.
I told him that I didn't have a nemesis, and he said, "Who's that guy with the broken camera?"
Hey, my camera. Hold on.
It works now.
My camera works right now until I break this phone, and then I'll have a broken camera for a few months until I completely destroy the phone. Then I'll get a new phone again, and you can't see my face for a few more weeks.
At least we got a plan, folks. We know exactly what to expect from him. This week, a broken phone. Next week, an even more broken phone.
Symptoms like muscle fever. Then the third stage is when the more specific neurological symptoms happen. At this point, the rabies virus has made it to the central nervous system and will kill its host, but in order to replicate in another host, it needs a way to get there. So it travels from the brain, down the nerves of the face and throat, and starts replicating in the salivary gland.
Yeah, I like
this.
This
is
too,
where
bro.
it produces two of the classic symptoms of rabies,
Appreciate you
hydrophobia
coming by,
and
man.
excessive salivation. And by hydrophobia, we're not talking about a fear of water, but an inability to drink. The rabies virus in your throat muscles causes a painful spasm whenever you try to swallow. This is where we get the image of a rabid dog foaming at the mouth. Rabies gets its host to drool so it can spread to other hosts through saliva, and it keeps you from drinking water, which makes sure you don't swallow the viruses in your saliva. It's a really cool strategy from the virus's perspective, but it doesn't happen in every case of rabies. About 85.
Yeah, I saw that. I was actually in a chat. Where was it? I can't remember. Anyway, There's somebody in the chat of one of the cop watches I was watching, and they're like, holy shit, there's cops outside. And apparently it was like somebody that lived a couple of houses down died from the Packy challenge, the one chip challenge. And I was like, dude, did you get any footage of that? I'm an evil bastard. Let's make some views, Bo. And they blocked me. Which I can't blame them. It's pretty cold hearted. I'm just waiting patiently for one of my previous guests to do like a multiple homicide or something. It'll happen.
I mean, you'll have to do a lot of editing to be able to post anything on your channel.
I'm not talking about live streaming that shit. What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? No. No, I'm saying like let's say M's Mad World decides to go and get a little stabby and take out a handful of her people she's angry with or whatever. That hits the fucking nationwide news or whatever. You can, dude, I'll ride that shit like a wave, bro. This is not suggestions. I'm not advising anyone to do this, but and I know it's evil to have this conversation, but let's not lie to ourselves. We're YouTubers, and current events content is one of those things that it's difficult to kind of get your teeth cut on, because by the time you make the video and upload it, 5,000 million people have already done it. But having an interaction with the people involved in particular crimes makes that particular video much more attractive concept, and that's not my fault. That's just facts. So if you don't like it, change the universe.
It's kind of like how everyone's doing videos about that crazy governor down in New Mexico.
Yeah, that bitch is crazier than shithouse rat. Shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. Shall not be. There's no interpretation there. The previous line is unrelated to this line. The previous line states that a well-regulated militia being necessary for the safety of a nation. So, yes, your militias can be regulated however the fuck you want to regulate them. I don't care. But the right for the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed.
See, what I think is going to be funny is when a whole bunch of people that are auditors go down there and they have things that look like weapons on their side and they're not. And they get stopped and harassed about it.
This is what people call frauditing. This is when you go to a place eliciting a response by doing something that is so close to illegal as to fudge the line, and then trying to pretend like you're not doing anything wrong. This would be very much like walking into a police station with a baggie of white powder and powder under your nose, throwing it on the counter and going, I didn't get the right crack. Arrest that man. You're going to jail, bro. Yeah, I don't care if there's powdered sugar in that bag.
You're still admitting to trying to buy an illegal substance too.
But you get my point. I mean, it's
all I'm saying is that lady is crazy. I mean, I first watched it on James Freeman's channel, and then I had to go and find the original video, and I started watching it, and I had to stop after like 20 minutes. And then I made a short about it. I think I sent it to you.
I saw it.
I haven't posted it yet, but that lady wants to monitor all the water coming from all the public buildings, all the public schools,
all right, Mitch,
and test it.
Check this out. There was a writer back in the 17th, early 18th century, maybe, Robespierre, and he referred to this lady, these people, exactly these people. He describes them to a T as le petit tyrants. They are the little tyrants that that just terrorize everybody in a local sphere at the behest of the greater tyrants that exist further away. La petite tyrant.
Stop it.
All I'm saying is there's certain things that should be private, and whatever goes in the sewer system should be not the state's responsibility to monitor.
That is classic fascist authoritarianism. There's no layer of regulation and control that she can conceive of that she's not willing to sign off on. If she can give you a fine, if she can charge you a toll, if she can charge you any type of taxation, monetization of any aspect of her civic life, she will. This seems to be her entire job. If you go and look back at the things she's done, she has done nothing but increase the amount of fines. She has done. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. She's basically just a cash cow for the city. I guarantee you, if you dig into her back finances, you will find that she was involved or knows someone who's involved in most of the construction companies around the city that do the different constructions and whatnot. I mean, that shit's common as hell. I mean, go look at a Midwest Accountability. He's been doing a whole series on was Steel Bend, Louisiana, South Bend, Louisiana, and in it they had a fucking 2 week or something like that, like 14 days of hot mic running 24/7.
Okay, then.
So we got all of the pre meetings for the council, and then all of the post meeting conversation from the council, and then the actual council meetings. And from the very beginning, they first start off with the concept of unplanned demolitions, where apparently a building is destroyed by a fire and nobody knows anything about it. It's apparently a known thing that happens in this town. They cover there was a couple of permits that were requested that would require for the city to change zoning regulations for this one permit, right? And there's a discussion about the permit and what it would be and how it would work and all that stuff between several guys involved in this permitting process. And then later, like I don't know, a week later, there's the vote, and when it goes to vote, everybody laughs about the fact that, well, we don't know if it's going to pass. Ha, 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 ha. And then, of course, it passes immediately, unanimously. It's just corrupt as fucking hell, dude. It's every small town in America. It's everywhere. It is rampant. I have no idea what to do about it. Voting does not seem to matter. It does not seem to have a local or a federal effect. It just does. The cities outvote the countryside in absolutely every freaking contest everywhere. And cities always, the saying I go with is this. What's up, DJ Emo? Good to see you, bud. In the desert, you vote for more water. Right?
Yeah.
So you can pretty much bet that a city will vote for more resources from the country in every case. And more resources in this case is basically larger and larger, or not larger, but more populous dense voting blocks. It's anyway, fuck that bullshit. I hate all of it, absolutely every bit.
5% of cases take the form of furious rabies, which is where we see hydrophobia.
Hit
But there's
that
also
link,
paralytic
Constitution
rabies,
State.
which
Come
looks
up
more
here
like
and save
generalized
me from
weakness without
myself.
hydrophobia. Then there's also a super rare, non-classic form of rabies, which is more associated with seizures. After about a week to 10 days of the acute neurological symptoms, you enter stage 4, which is coma. And within 2 to 3 days, the victim enters the 5th and final stage, which is death. Ultimately, rabies kills you by causing a swelling of the brain and then cardiac arrest. If untreated, mortality is 100%. If it is treated, though, mortality is lower, but that took us a while to figure out. Rabies is one of humanity's oldest documented diseases. Like, for those of you who took world history in high school, the first chapter in your textbook probably started with the Mesopotamians and the Code of Hammurabi. Rabies was documented before that. The idea that dog bites could cause death was documented over 4,000 years ago in the laws of Veshnuna. By about 400 years later, healers recognized that rabies probably spread by something in the dog's saliva, kind of like how a snake bite has a special venom in it. But the most detailed ancient account comes from ancient India's Susruta Samhita, which dedicates about 1,000 words to rabies and accurately describes its symptoms, including hydrophobia. The Susruta Samhita comments, If the patient in such a case becomes exceedingly frightened at the sight or mention of the very name of water, he should be understood to have been afflicted with water scare, and be deemed to have been doomed. This is why historians are confident that ancient scholars were documenting rabies. The combination of dog bite plus hydrophobia is pretty uniquely a rabies thing. Even the long incubation period has been documented for thousands of years. But that doesn't mean we've been making progress since then. The big Greek thinkers didn't give us much. Hippocrates doesn't actually mention rabies, and Aristotle got it pretty polar opposite wrong. Like, he recognized that rabies existed in animals, but he thought that humans were immune to it. But of all the Greeks, it was the poet Homer who contributed the most to rabies. He used the term lyssa when describing a warrior in the passion of battle, which is where we get the modern name for the family of viruses that cause rabies, Lyssa virus. Lyssa can translate directly to rage or fury, or of course, rabies. And staying in ancient Greece, the legendary three-headed dog Cerberus was described as drooling like a rabid dog, and myth had it that his saliva dropped on the ground and gave rise to a plant called aconite, also known as wolfsbane or monk's hood. Now, for as long as physicians have known about rabies, they've been looking for treatments for just as long, but with no success. Ancient Rome's Pliny the Elder recommended taking the dog that bit you, clipping off some of its tail, and taking that as a remedy. This is where the phrase hair of the dog comes from. It's a reference to the hair of the dog that bit you. Pliny also recommended cutting out a ligament from within the dog's mouth when they were a puppy, or you could use a mixture of dung of a badger, cuckoo, and swallow. Obviously, none of this worked. Fast forward a few hundred years, and the Islamic scholar Ibn al-Razi documented rabies as well, telling this story. There was with us in hospital one such man who barked during the night and then died. Another did not drink water, but when some water was brought to him, he was not afraid of it, but said, "It stinks, and the stomachs of dogs and cats are in it." Yet another patient, when he saw water, shuddered, shivered, and trembled until it was taken away from him. Doctors kept documenting rabies through medieval times without making progress on treatments. But this is when we get the English word rabid and the French term la rage. At this point, the word for fury or madness becomes synonymous with rabies. And that's one thing I found interesting in my reading, is just how much of a cultural impact rabies had at the time. According to this September 1998 article in Neurology, the lore that inspired modern vampire stories probably came from observations of rabies. Then the 15 and 1600s saw a full-blown
Not so sure that checks out there, bub. What do you reckon?
I don't like the fact that he said 100% of people die from it. It's more like 99.9%.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, he's talking historically speaking. Most people don't walk away from it. Like, overwhelmingly, historically, everyone died pretty much.
I mean, it's still like that today.
For the most part, sure, but there are treatments and shit. So, I mean, it can be treated. It's just not very successful. You have to catch it like freaking immediately. You have to test the dog and verify they have rabies and then start the treatment immediately. And that's assuming like it wasn't yesterday, day before.
Oh, good luck with that.
Could you imagine what would happen? And I don't want y'all to put this in your pipe and smoke it. If mosquitoes could suddenly transmit rabies.
Epidemic of werewolf reports, probably inspired by rabies victims too. Side note, I gotta recommend this book, Rabid, A Cultural History of the World's Most Diabolical Virus by Bill Wassick and Monica Murphy. It had great descriptions of how rabies made an impact on human cultures. I got a link to it down in the doobly-doo. Fast forward to 1702. Famous physician Richard Mead published a more modern case report on rabies. He recommended treating dog bites by first using bloodletting.
Dude, Cujo gave me nightmares. I grew up, we bred bulldogs and tracking hounds and Alabama red beagles. And while an Alabama red beagle is not the most fearsome animal on the planet, when you got like 60 of them, even as puppies, they are formidable creatures.
I mean, anytime you get a large group of any animal together that's bigger than, I don't know, 5 to 10 pounds, it's hard to fight them off.
Dude,
especially when they're adorably cute and they're puppies.
Oh, yeah. Like, you might not actually stand up to it. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
You might be caught by the shock and, oh.
I mean, just imagine like 100 kittens coming after you to bite and scratch you.
Oh
the kittens, you can't do anything to them without feeling bad. And they're just cute.
For a minute until it starts hurting. Then you might walk
away.
But if they're kittens and puppies. Yeah.
Same thing Same thing with puppies. Get 100 adorable, cute little puppies coming after you, all wanting to lick you, and then they start wanting to bite you and stuff. There's not much you can do other than just keep putting them off of you and climb up high.
Why is my chat over here failing? I don't like it.
I'll say it's still working on
the StreamYards. It seems to still be working, but my phone keeps dropping the chat out.
Mine's been doing that on YouTube too for some reason. It'll be good for 20 minutes, and it'll start dropping it and coming back like every minute or two.
Sometimes I'll post a comment in chat and live chat, and it'll say resources expended.
That's weird.
That's what I say. I restart my phone, and usually that handles it. Sometimes I just take a nap, say screw it. Oh, no.
Then using a powder of black pepper and ground liverworts drunk in half a pint of cow's milk. This would be followed by a month of cold baths every morning. And I don't need to tell you, this was nothing. But someone would need to do something soon. By the way, for those of you who are sensitive about the treatment of animals, skip ahead like 45 seconds. By the late 18th, early 19th century, it became more popular for wealthy people to have dogs, especially in cities. And this created a ton of overhyped anxiety about rabies. Overhyped in the fact that diseases like tuberculosis and cholera claimed way more lives than rabies. The result was the culling of thousands of dogs throughout Europe thanks to rabies anxiety. Paris alone killed almost 10,000 dogs in 1879. Making things worse was the fact that by the early 1800s, we didn't really know much more about rabies than what Sasquatch had written about millennia earlier. In 1805, Benjamin Rush wrote an account of rabies and took some shots in the dark about what caused it. He thought rabies was a type of fever, which would have been understood as its own disease anyway based on the humoral theory. And one of Rush's students, James Meese, thought rabies might pop up spontaneously in dogs. He also drew parallels to tetanus, another disease that spread through the nervous system and associated with puncture wounds.
All right, so his work on tetanus actually covered an awful lot of ground to explaining how rabies was transmitted from one animal to another. Because one of the issues with trying to identify what happened with tetanus was that in every case, almost every case tetanus is an issue, there is a deep puncture wound involved of some sort from something, somewhere. Rabies is the same way. Usually it involves an animal bite that's happened in the last few hours. Like, it's not one of those things where you're like, well, I wonder where I got the rabies from. Damn, that fucking possum just bit me, shit.
No. Possums are one of the few animals that can't have rabies because their body temperature isn't high enough to actually carry the virus.
Yeah, it's kind of like rat catching during the Black Plague. Like, it's fucking death sentence, dude. There is a village in Europe, somewhere in, I think, northern France, where they have a something of an inbred resistance against the plague. Apparently, they have a genetic alteration to one of their genes that has to do with the formation of like the lung tissue on the inside, and the aerial form of the plague has a serious issue trying to colonize there properly. And so they have a certain immunity to the airborne plague, like 33% or something. Like, it's not as bad. It doesn't affect them as harshly, and they tend to get over it and live rather than getting buboes and dying. Bubonic.
You want to know one of the strangest ways I've heard of curing rat problems? I just watched a short about it today. Have you ever heard of the king of rats? Or know how to make the king of rats?
Well, the rat king is a real thing. It doesn't have shit to do with rats beating up rats.
Yeah, you get 10 rats, you throw them in a pit, and one survives. Then you get 10 more, throws them in there.
Nothing to do with the rat king. A rat king is what happens when you have a place that is colonized by a group of rats, where there is an overabundance of food in the location where they are nesting, and so they don't have to go anywhere to get food, and eventually all their tails become locked together by just crap. Basically, they basically create one big huge shit turd dreadlock out of their tails. And then one of these rats becomes bigger and stronger because it's closer to the most food, and it takes control of where all the rats are going. And that is a rat king. Now, this other thing you're talking about is like the gladiator of rats or something. Like, I don't know if that would work. I think it would just breed with the females and make a bajillion more rats. Much tougher and beefier, like Rambo.
No, because the only food they have is the other rats in the pit. And that's literally what you do for like 4 or 5 cycles is you throw 10 rats in there, one lives. Keeps throwing 10 more rats in the hole with the one that's alive. And eventually, after that rat's done nothing but become a super cannibal, you pull it out of the hole somehow. Don't ask me how you're going to get that out. And you release it back into the wild population. And it just devastates all the other rats.
And yet again, I'm going to say, I hear what you're saying. And I saw that same short. I just don't fucking buy it. That rat would have no need to do that once it got a full belly and a piece of ass somewhere over here on the corner.
That's just it. Just like in humans and stuff, once an animal becomes a cannibal, it messes with them.
Sure. And I'm sure you're conditioned to be as violent as they want you to be, but at the same time, that's all effort that has to be expended. You don't think Freddy Krueger jumps into people's dreams because it pleases him, do you?
I mean, yeah, that's kind of the whole reason why he does it, because it pleases him and he wants to hunt them.
He's a nightmare. He is the embodiment of terror and fear. He is the unkillable death that walks the night. He's that sensation of falling and hitting the ground where you just don't wake up. That's the fear, that primal fear of death. Whereas say Jason is a whole different critter. This is the fear of the darkness, of the unknown, of the undead, of the inverse of life and light. You can't stop him. You can't get away. No matter how far you run, you get tired, but he just keeps walking.
I mean, until you chain him up and experiment on him.
All right, so most people ain't quite as redneck as we are. I agree. I'd have that bitch in a goddamn tiger pit. We'd be figuring out what sort of freaky he is.
I don't care how much Deadpool regenerates. You get him to get trapped in a whole bunch of concrete, then you can start poking him with a stick and playing with him.
Unless a piece of him crawls away. Careful, man. See, Deadpool's one of them critters you don't really want to fuck with. You just don't even want to be around him because, I mean, people in his presence just fucking die.
I mean, even Wolverine, all you have to do is you just get a big enough magnet. I didn't know adamantium was magnetic until the last couple movies.
Say that again.
Adamantium. Adamantium.
Adamantium?
Adamantium. I ain't gonna say it right.
Adamantium.
Adamantium.
Close enough for government work. Somebody give this man a fucking cookie.
Oh, make it chocolate chip.
No, it's
no raisins.
With raisins. Dun, dun, dun.
In the mid-1800s, some doctors and veterinarians believed that dogs could just become rabid, maybe from hunger or dehydration or, interestingly, sexual frustration. They thought that switching from a free-roaming wild life to a domestic life so quickly was unnatural for doggy sex lives. So, in 1845, an Italian man that just went by Monsignor Storti wrote to the Medical Gazette of Milan to recommend seraglios for dogs, basically brothels for dogs. As far as I can tell, this never became a thing, but it's a visual. But rabies anxiety wasn't just a European thing. Over in the US, frontiersmen found out that skunks and wolves could transmit rabies too, and tried using indigenous treatments to fight them. Like the Blackfoot tribe suggested sweating out the illness, but more practically, they suggested just getting ready for death. So by the mid-1800s, rabies was a full-blown health panic. Anyone who cured rabies would become a worldwide celebrity. And this is how we got the world's first scientific vaccine. By the year 1870, there was only one human vaccine to speak.
Right. So the development of a vaccine for smallpox, part of it came from an observational treatise that was written in like the mid 1400s, an observation that everybody gets smallpox except milkmaids. That's why milkmaids all through the Middle Ages were beautiful and comely lasses. In every case, when you see a milkmaid,
No, Snickers.
Snickers, stop it.
I need to turn my mic off. Sorry.
Bad kitty.
He's the puppy. And I wondered before I came on here that I was going live, but she doesn't realize how sensitive my phone mics seem to be.
I don't give a shit how sensitive your phone is. If my dog's gonna bark, I'm gonna stop him barking.
She don't give a damn. Let me help.
Hey, at least it's entertainment, right?
You go ahead. Tell him what. Nemesis. But no, cowpox is a disease very closely related to smallpox, and there is a bit of crossover resistance. So a milkmaid would have encountered cowpox almost immediately upon milking cows. She would have walked around with a few little sores on her hands, like ant bites, and then a week later she maybe had a fever a little bit, and a week later she was fine, but she would never catch smallpox. And that observation led to the observation that the scabs from cowpox could be used to inoculate other people. And it was done in small villages where they didn't do it against smallpox. They did it against cowpox, because some people, kind of like chickenpox, some people actually succumb to that. And if you wait until you're 50 to get it, it almost certainly kills you. So they would take the scabs off of the cowpox, put it in a soup, and like literally serve it to the other people in the village to hopefully keep them from having an utterly disastrous event with cowpox.
I think there's actually a episode of Sliders where they did the same thing with penicillin, was make a soup out of it.
Yeah,
and that's probably where they got the idea from. Was from that.
Was from Sliders? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it was from the cowpox.
Yeah, it's possible. But this is not your classic virus. This is not your classic vaccine. This is a naturally, what's the term? Attenuated virus. The virus has already been defeated by someone else's immune system. So all you get basically is a rash and possibly a light fever, but a lifetime immunity to cowpox. Possibly a crossover resistance to chickenpox, and a definite resistance to smallpox. This was, yeah, I know. I hear you. It's scab stew. No way. But you basically do the same thing with a vaccine today every time you take one. It's just the delivery method that's different.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if you want a couple days without food, anything would look good, including that scab soup.
Including that scab soup. Or if you just saw your little brother die of cowpox.
Or that.
Right? That's the thing, is you never know. It's not, in fact, I don't think, for the most part, people can't give it to people. For the most part, people can give it to cows, and people who spend a lot of time in very close proximity to cows can get it. But it's not really common in either direction. They usually give it to each other.
Oh.
Nope. Oh, hell no. Absolutely no. Just fuck that. We're not eating scab soup. So we're going to grind up the scabs, put it in a tincture, and shoot it into your arm. Is that acceptable? Can we do that?
And we might add some other stuff in there too that we won't tell you about.
Well, I mean, that's basically what they did to make smallpox vaccine, was take the process of basically. I mean,
that may be one good blender.
No, put it in the centrifuge, and they take the serum, and then they centrifuge the shit out of that, and they pull the little solids out of that and make concentrates. Like, it doesn't take hardly none at all to trigger the reaction, and you get like a little rash, and you feel better. But you're immune to smallpox. If you go and look at old people's arms, you'll find a divot cut out from their original smallpox vaccinations back in like the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
My mama had one.
Both my parents had one. Yeah. But anyway,
apparently, my fiance's parents had that divot from it.
Right. That's because they used a specific type of injection that was kind of traumatic. It's the 50s. Nobody cared.
Bigger needles back then.
You were lucky it wasn't electrical.
Smallpox vaccine made popular by Edward Jenner in 1796. This is the one where he gave cowpox pus to healthy people, and they developed immunity to smallpox. Obviously, it was a big deal in the history of medicine.
All right. So there's a side to this that nobody ever thinks of. What if he was wrong? The only way to test it was to give this to a bunch of people, and then go and take them to a smallpox ridden area to wait patiently to see if they got it. You had to bring someone who is this is evil. This was evil. Actual evil.
Medicine.
I mean, it'd be better than just drinking snake oil.
Yeah. Well, I mean, moonshine's good for two things: killing brain cells and degreasing engine blocks. I mean, what do you want from me? Also, straighten out a knocking an engine under the right circumstances.
And even by the 1870s, nobody had made a ton of progress towards its understanding. That's where Louis Pasteur comes in. Pasteur thought it might be possible to find vaccines for every infectious disease. He'd been studying a bunch of different microbes and thought that an understanding of each of them would help systematize vaccine creation. I gave you Pasteur's biography in the germ theory video, so I don't want to repeat it here, but I do want to spend time understanding why he thought it would even be possible to vaccinate against rabies in the first place. At this point, Pasteur was a well-known scientist who'd already helped figure out the process of fermentation, stopped an epidemic among France's silkworm population, disproved the ancient idea of spontaneous generation, and of course, invented pasteurization. All of this was influencing the broader concept of germ theory, the idea that microorganisms cause infectious disease. Cool, so you want to make some vaccines. Where do you start? Well, the Pasteur lab decided to focus on cholera in chickens, which was ripping through France in the 1870s. The main biography of Pasteur tells a story like this. In 1877, the Pasteur lab started studying the germ that causes chicken cholera, what another scientist called Pasteurella multicida. Then one day during the particularly hot summer of 1879, a lab assistant named Emile Duclos was supposed to inject a sample of P. multicida into chickens, but forgot. He ended up leaving the bacteria out, then went on vacation for a few days. When he came back and injected those bacteria into chickens, they got some mild symptoms, but otherwise recovered. So they took those chickens, got a batch of new chickens who hadn't been exposed to this weakened bacteria, and injected both sets with a new, full-strength strain of cholera germ. They found that the chickens who had previously gotten the old, abandoned bacteria didn't contract the disease from the fresh batch of microbes, while the new flock did. It turned out that the old batch of cholera bacteria had been weakened to the point where it didn't produce infection, but the chicken's immune system had learned to recognize it, training it to fight the bacteria if it encountered it in the wild ever again. Pasteur called this process attenuation, and repeated the experiment a bunch of times to conclude that the summer heat and air exposure had attenuated the bacteria. And this was an encouraging first step towards his goal of systematizing vaccines. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be that easy for his next target. Anthrax. In 1876, Pasteur's main right.
All right. Anthrax is a fucking nightmare. If it manages to achieve an airborne status of transmission, it is a literal nightmare disease, as if it was designed by nature itself to be an object of warfare. It's terrifying. There's an island in, I think it's off the coast of Scotland or maybe Ireland, where humanity is no longer allowed to go because they did some anthrax tests back there in like the 50s and 70s. And if you go there, when you almost, as I understand it, you're guaranteed to get anthrax if you stick around there for very long at all, because it's in everything. It's on.
Isn't there like a group of sheep or rams or something on the island, and that's the only thing that can live on there?
Well, these sheep were released to kind of test and see how bad the anthrax was on the island, and the first flock of them almost completely got wiped out, and the second flock of them almost completely got wiped out, and then a handful survived, and they're still on the island, still surviving, and apparently developing an immunity to anthrax, which will be interesting in the long term if we could ever figure out how to derive our own immunity from those sheep. That's why they're still there. They proved that it's possible somehow. Going to get us was a bitch, though.
It just takes one person with the right ghost genes in their genetic code to survive, and then you have a cure for it. But going through the millions or billions of people it would take just wouldn't be worth it.
Okay, so this is kind of hard to explain, and I might actually get it a little bit wrong in the process, but there's only certain aspect of certain viruses that can be used as vaccine vectors. You have to attack either its coding through an immune ability in the human body to attack that particular thing. You have to give the body the ability to recognize it and attack it first, kind of like we do with chickenpox. Or like with the cholera, with the chickens, you have to give them a almost dead version to figure out how to fight it, right? And even then, you'll still catch it a little bit later on, but it won't be like a lethal dose, right? Or, and this is really the silver bullet, if there was going to be one, if you can cause a reaction between the immune system and the actual precursors of a particular germ, then you could feasibly carry that immunity across the entire spectrum of those types of bacteria or viruses, right? So like the genes that make a virus, not the actual coding or the materials or its attachment method or none of that. If you can actually immunize using the viral code itself, that's the ultimate silver bullet. Because in theory, that would work with bacteria and fucking mushrooms if you wanted to.
I mean, I think the ultimate silver bullet would be someone inventing some nanobots that can scan every cell in your body within seconds. And then we're golden.
You're a gray ooze end person. I hear you.
I have no clue what that is, but okay.
I go with the paperclip machine end myself. The gray ooze is the idea that eventually a nanobot will be developed to break down trash or plastic or metal or something like that, to do something useful. And then it'll get out of control and basically break down everything into a gray ooze replicator of itself with no intelligence, and it just kills everything on Earth. Turning it into
you can't let nanobots do something on their own. They have to be remote controlled.
I understand, but the problem is there are billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of them, and programming is tetchy at best.
Yeah.
You're very late. There's a link over there, and I'm fixing to end this whole shindig here in just a few minutes if you want to sit backstage for a minute. I mean, I'll let you up here, but I don't know how much you've had to drink so far. So you're going to have to deconvict.
I've had nothing, and I'm just naturally crazy. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, another day, another dollar, right?
Yeah, let's get back to the video, right?
Right. We'll finish this.
Rival, Robert Cook, came out with an important research paper about the etiology of anthrax in livestock. So Pasteur and his assistants, fresh off the chicken cholera vaccine, began working on an attenuated vaccine against anthrax too. Unfortunately, just exposing it to air in a hotbox lab didn't do anything, so they decided to heat it up to a specific temperature and attenuate the germ that way. His initial trials worked well, so he decided to hold a public demonstration on sheep, goats, and cows in May of 1881. He and his assistant, Emile Roux, vaccinated half of the subjects with a heat-attenuated version of Bacillus anthracis, then gave all of them live anthrax. The vaccinated ones all lived, while the naive group all died. In a paper to the International Medical Congress in August of that year, he called this process vaccination, as homage to Jenner's smallpox treatment. Vaccine coming from vacca, the Latin for cow. The main takeaway from the rest of the paper is that you might need different techniques to attenuate different germs and make successful vaccines, which brings us back to rabies. Pasteur had only tackled animal diseases at this point. The human anthrax vaccine wouldn't be developed until the 1950s and wouldn't be approved until the 70s. He didn't want to tackle tuberculosis or human cholera since Koch had already made so much progress with them, but rabies might work. While it wasn't super widespread at the time, it was easy to recognize and had a clear route of transmission, and it was the perfect choice for the spectacle. It would be a dramatic, emotionally charged demonstration of the power of vaccination. Plus, there had been some big progress on it recently that Pasteur could piggyback on. In 1879, Pierre Gaultier demonstrated how dogs could transmit rabies to rabbits. Those rabbits could develop the disease more quickly, which made them good experimental animals. Plus, scientists were getting confident that the germ that causes rabies was something in the rabid animal's saliva. This had been assumed since antiquity, but couldn't really be shown until germ theory got going. So in 1880, Pasteur bought some rabid dogs and started trying to find the germ so that he could attenuate it and make a vaccine. Unfortunately, that was hard to do since rabies is caused by a virus, which is way, way smaller than bacteria. And Pasteur actually referred to the rabies germ as a virus, but the word had a different definition than it does today. They didn't know viruses were little packages of genetic material and proteins, but they did know that there were things smaller than bacteria that could cause disease. So they kept going even though they couldn't see the germ. And their first challenge was figuring out a more reliable way of giving their subjects rabies that didn't involve a dog bite. See, bites didn't always produce rabies, and there was a pretty good chance that the wound would get infected and lead to sepsis anyway. Plus, it can take a long time for symptoms to show up as the virus makes its way up the nervous system to the brain. So one of those assistants, Emile Roux, reasoned that he could bypass the virus's slow progression up the peripheral nerve.
So this means that there was that conversation just like straight out of Fern Gully. Get me another animal. They didn't have any antibiotics either. So like I didn't know if it was they skinned their knee or was it the damn rabies. I don't know. Shit. One of them killed it.
Can you imagine being the first person to make a microscope that can actually see viruses and not just microorganisms?
No. I'm going to have to look into that.
Like, just watching the regular videos that people have been posting of the stuff they look at in water is interesting.
Sure, yeah.
And I can't remember his name, but the dude over in, what was it, France or Great Britain, where he started turning off the water when he first invented it, he was like, it was looking into another universe.
Basically. I mean, basically it is.
I can't remember his name right now.
Chloroforming the rabbits, drilling a hole through their skulls, and injecting the rabies germ directly into their brain's dura mater. He repeated the process until he was sure he'd isolated the virus. They ended up creating a strain of the virus that produced the disease every time and shortened the incubation period from weeks to just 8 days, which means they finally had a germ to experiment with. Now they could work on attenuation. One of those other scientists who'd worked on rabies, Victor Gaultier, made progress there too. In 1881, he injected some sheep with the saliva from a rabid dog, and he found that it protected the sheep from rabies injections going forward. This wasn't a proper vaccine, but he showed that it was possible to build immunity to the rabies virus. Knowing that there was such a long incubation period, Pasteur's initial goal was to create a post-exposure vaccine. So someone would get a dog bite and then get their rabies vaccine right afterwards. The idea was that this attenuated germ vaccine would be processed by the body before the natural infection got to the brain, thus conferring immunity against the germ. It was weaker, but faster. But Roux and the other assistants were never able to get a pure sample of the germ. They were still working with rabbit brains. So they decided to try to attenuate the virus by drying the rabbit's brains and spinal cords over a solution of potassium hydroxide. And they noticed that the longer that they left out the sample, the less virulent the virus, maxing out around 14 days of drying. After a while, they finally created a strain of the virus fast enough to beat a natural infection, but attenuated enough that a test animal could use it to build immunity. This was their vaccine candidate. But all of this was in dogs and rabbits still. Obviously, they were more worried about human trials. In 1885, Pasteur wrote a letter where he said that he'd be willing to try the rabies vaccine on himself, but not quite yet. Regardless, word got out about the rabies vaccine, and plenty of dog bite victims volunteered to be test subjects. They were looking at a 100% fatality rate otherwise, so even if there was a tiny chance the rabies vaccine would work, it was worth it. Now, Pasteur knew that his reputation depended on a successful first public attempt, so he had to be cautious here. And while he didn't publicize the results at the time, Pasteur's private notebook showed that he tried the vaccine on 2 human patients, both of which were referred to Pasteur as a last resort. One of them died, and the other survived, but might not have actually been exposed to rabies. But then came along Joseph Meister, a 9-year-old boy who was attacked by a potentially rabid dog. His local physician patched him up and cleaned the wounds, but sent him to Pasteur in Paris in desperation. Pasteur wasn't allowed to administer shots since he wasn't a medical doctor, so he teamed up with a physician and rabies expert named Alfred Villepin and a pediatrician named Jacques-Joseph Granchet to give the boy his rabies shots. Starting on July 6th, the team injected Meister with the rabbit spinal cord vaccine, and over the course of 10 days, they exposed him to 13 strains of virus that were less attenuated than the one before, meaning the final shot was the most powerful one. Now, usually, Pasteur was stoked on media, but he stayed relatively quiet during these 10 days in case the whole thing was a failure. Luckily, it wasn't. Meister got his last shot on July 16th and never developed rabies symptoms. Now, there was definitely a chance that the dog that bit Meister didn't have rabies, but after this many exposures to some potent rabies virus, it was clear their vaccine prevented the disease, whether the kid got it from a dog or from their lab. By October of 1885, Meister had stayed symptom-free for over 100 days, so Pasteur wrote a report and presented his story to the Academy of Sciences. But then the real challenge began. How do you go from one successful vaccination to protecting the entire planet against La Rage? News about the successful vaccination spread through France.
Crazy thought.
Lining up to get rabies shots. Some because they've been bit.
No. I remember why it was that I put this in the stack. If you've ever seen 28 Days Later.
Yes.
This is the source from which that plot is derived. The virus is it's basically rabies, except it becomes much more spreadable and it becomes almost immediate. That's what it immediately inflames the brain. You go into complete psychotic rage and attack anything that moves. It's rabies.
That's also the idea for a lot of zombie movies too, is from rabies.
The most terrifying thing about 28 Days Later is they're not zombies. They're just sick people.
But I was about to say, crazy idea. What if the kid was actually naturally immune to rabies anyways, and that's why he didn't get it, and their treatment just didn't work at all?
Very
That'd be messed up.
You can still use the method to create a vaccine against rabies to this day. Like, it's a functional method.
I was just saying
another way we go about making treatments for different types of bacterial infections and some of the fungal infections is we have entire batteries of chickens who are infected with a particular germ, and their eggs carry that infection, and then we take the eggs and put them in a little bit higher temperature and incubate. Sometimes depending on the specific germ, you might actually introduce part of the germ into the egg, and that's where we derive a lot of our. So I mean, like, vegan, not really. Not if you've received vaccines. You almost nice try though. I mean,
isn't there a new show about some type of fungus infection? I've not seen it yet, but I've seen bits and pieces of it.
It's based off of a video game. It's the Last of Us.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, and the story's great, but I just could not watch it as a show. It just did not. First of all, there wasn't nearly enough parkour.
Okay. I've seen bits and pieces of it from advertising and people doing videos about it. It just didn't look interesting for some reason to me.
Well, I mean, as far as following source material, it's pretty fucking good. I mean, it follows the game and all that shit. What the fuck ever, man. Whatever. Uh, I don't care. That's the thing. Like, there's no impact here. If you know what happens in the games, it all sucks anyway. So, I mean,
That's probably why I don't like it. If it's based off of a video game, that means it's meant to be played, not watched.
right. And so there's a disconnect there that just doesn't work. And there's not nearly enough parkour.
Bit, and some because rabies anxiety was still strong. But folks in the United States weren't really interested yet. Europe had a way more advanced medical science scene at the time, and only a few young American physicians kept up with European science. But that would start to change thanks to a high-profile case in America, just a few months after Meister. On December 2nd, 1885, 4 little boys from Newark, New Jersey were bit by a rabid dog. The next day, an American doctor got in touch with Pasteur and asked if he could send them to Paris for the vaccine. And before long, their town was pooling together money to send them on a ship overseas. Andrew Carnegie even donated to the cause. Within a few weeks, the boys were on a steamship to France, supervised by one of their mothers who was 8 months pregnant. The boys made it to France by December 21st. They got their series of shots and survived. And all this time, American newspapers were hooked on the story. They started reporting on rabies, supposed cures, and eventually about Pasteur's background in germ theory. And this was a big deal because it showed Americans that this new form of medicine was worth paying attention to. It's not far-fetched to say that these boys brought germ theory to North America. The Newark boys left Paris on January 3rd, 1886, and a few days later, the original Meister story was published in English in Popular Science Monthly, which is when the global demand for the rabies vaccine skyrocketed. Pasteur realized he'd need more space to expand vaccine production, so he did a bunch of fundraising and opened the Institut Pasteur in 1888. And the Institute became a massive deal in the history of medicine. Like, chances are, if I've said that a French guy helped develop an important medicine in the late 19th, early 20th century, they were probably involved at the Institute. Like diphtheria antitoxin, tuberculosis vaccine, discovery of the plague bacillus, typhus transmission, and the basis of the innate immune system were all studied at the PI. But of course, the rabies story doesn't end here. By 1903, a scientist at the Institute found that the causative agent of rabies could be passed through a filter, which meant it was probably a virus. Then, over the years, as virology developed as a science and electron microscopy became a thing, we got a much better idea of what the virus looked like and how it worked. The vaccine itself has changed too. In 1915, they started attenuating the virus with phenol instead of air, and eventually stopped using rabbit nervous tissue in the 1950s. And of course, scientists are still working on more effective rabies vaccines today. But I'm more interested in the public health response. Like, it was clear that controlling rabies in humans meant controlling rabies in dogs, whether that was through vaccines or the Italian doggy brothels from 1845. And the best starting point was going to be domestic animals. It would be way easier to vaccinate everyone's pets compared to wild animals. But this is where the story starts spreading out on a country-by-country basis. Like, the UK had a big rabies problem by the end of the 19th century. There were 672 human deaths from rabies in the country in 1895. Now, prior to the vaccine, Parliament had already tried to control the problem by requiring dogs to be muzzled in public. And once the vaccine came out, they wanted to use it as part of the strategy too. But first they need infrastructure for distributing it. So they took inspiration from the Pasteur Institute and started the British Institute of Preventative Medicine in 1891, which was renamed to the Lister Institute. I got a video all about Joseph Lister.
Yeah, we might have to look into some Italian dog brothels in the future, man. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about. I'm intrigued. And it's not Dog and Pony Show, I hope. Dear God, that's Mexican. I haven't been to Tijuana in a long time. Besides, I was young and I needed the money.
It's a namesake if you want to check it out. The UK declared itself rabies-free in 1903 and only had a few cases ever since then, mostly between the world wars. And a few countries followed their model to get us where we are today. Like, the United States had 6 facilities that produced rabies vaccine by the year 1900. And over time, different US states led vaccination campaigns for dogs, so that by the 40s and 50s, rabies was pretty much under control in the states. Then in the late 1970s, the US and parts of Europe started programs where they put oral rabies vaccines in bait packages to help control rabies in wild animals. And they're not trying to eradicate all the rabies, just keep human population centers safe. But of course, it's a different story in poorer countries. In 2019, India had over 5,200 deaths from rabies. That same year, Nigeria, Pakistan, and Ethiopia all had close to 1,000 deaths from rabies as well. Just like other infectious diseases.
Okay, so your blue... Uh-oh, that's not good. Damn it. Go away. Go away. So your blue is those are low numbers of rabies attacks. Whereas, yellow and red, it's heavier and heavier. So Australia is not horribly affected by it. See, I figured they'd be just okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, with as much wildlife as they have, and like 9 out of the 10 deadliest snakes,
everything. They have a fucking shrub over there that's just itching to kill you.
It's not that it kills you, it's just it causes so much pain to you that you will willingly jump off a cliff to try to stop the pain.
Well, the thing is, it has soft and fluffy leaves, and people wipe with it.
Oh my God.
Pattern of countries get higher disease incidence. So the question is, can we ever get rid of rabies? Probably not. Island nations like the UK and Japan have kept themselves clear from rabies for big stretches of time, but it still hasn't been that long. Like, Bali declared itself rabies-free and saw an outbreak starting in 2008. And while we'll never vaccinate all the wild bats and skunks, they're not our biggest worries anyway. Dogs make up 90% of human exposures to rabies and 99% of human rabies deaths. And by far, the biggest factor in preventing a human infection is how successfully a nation vaccinates its dogs. Unfortunately, that isn't likely for the poorer countries where rabies is most common. Diseases like malaria and tuberculosis kill way more people than rabies. Plus, the prohibitively high cost of vaccinating dogs means that rabies isn't...
But malaria is a protozoan, not it's not your typical like germ bacterium type thing. It's a whole nother creature.
I just want to throw this out there. It might be a little insensitive, but the people over in Africa who gets rabies, I don't care if they get them, if they're over there torturing those puppies and eating them. I don't care that they're eating the dogs, but the way they treat them as livestock is just the most inhumane thing I've ever seen. Humans can be handcuffed behind their backs. Dogs and four-legged animals should not have their legs literally bent behind their back and tied up so they could be made into hopping dogs so they can catch them easier for food. It was no.
Right,
it's inhumane beyond belief.
The biggest remaining hurdle is treatment once somebody has already been infected. The cool thing is that there have been people who have survived rabies once symptoms showed up. The first happened to a little boy in Ohio in 1972, then a woman in Argentina in 76, and most recently, a boy in India in 2020. I actually found a website that compiles all the rabies survivor case studies in one place. I'll put a link down in the description. While we're on the subject of infectious diseases, I got a whole playlist of stories that you can check out right here. I'm particularly proud of this.
A whole bunch of it's all medical to some extent. Most of it has to do with communicable diseases and stuff. And when I found his channel, I pretty much just binged about half of it before I even thought about covering it, because I was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Wait, I've been watching this dude all day. I should probably do a show on him. You can find his link in the description. Anybody can check it out. Hey, I did a new outro. And it's specifically for when I'm doing like the big long after dark. I'm not doing a big long after dark tonight. But since I've made the outro and I haven't had a chance to show anybody yet, I'm going to show it. You want to see it?
I want to see it.
All right, let me see if I can find the right button.
First things first, before you hit the button. Good morning, good evening, and good night, everyone. See you all in the next live stream from Ohio.
And he would know. He's in Ohio. I mean, I'm just in a petty little Georgia, all we have to worry about is Florida man crossing the border. But
sorry, good news.
With this flip phone from 1990.
We're gonna have to move the party somewhere a little bit more private, but you're all invited. Lorenzo will give you the details.
Yeah! Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up.
Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Yo, set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flaws, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, really gon' rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, grow hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Say hi, Daddy. Say hi, Daddy.
Hi, Daddy.
Whose goddamn white baby is that? This baby is rice-skinned, but not light-skinned. That is a white child. That is Caucasian from the mountains of Caucasus. That is a Slavic baby, a Viking from Iceland. That's a good... That baby got 730 as a credit rating right now as an infant. I'm sorry, I should have set a better example in front of the nice white gentleman and your mother. I mean no disrespect, sir. Hope to work for you one day when I get out.